Hey, what's going on? Rich here, bringing you a new episode of the Reinforced Running Show. Today, we have Lauren Weeks. And Lauren Weeks is fresh off a third place finish at the Dallas Invitational on Hyrox. She's a previous Hyrox world champion. She won OCR stars outright, killed everybody. She was a participant in the Spartan games. She has a huge, vast range of skills when it comes to her athletic performance. So we talk about some of those skill sets that she has, how she plans to improve them, and a lot about the mindset behind some of the efforts and some of the experience she's had. And it's pretty cool and pretty interesting approach that she has to competition and performance. So before we get started, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and here we go. Lauren Weeks. Was your background in running at all, or do you think that it's just a matter of like the amount of times that you kind of put on your feet and like mixing the CrossFit that's kind of giving you this ability to push into like faster pace for a longer duration?
So my background is in soccer and swimming. So soccer, I think, has a lot of those faster sprint paces that I never make myself do anymore. And I was a center mid, so it's tons of running there. And then swimming is, it's all aerobic. Like I just had that big aerobic base from swimming. And then that was my college sport. And after college, so when I finished swimming, I didn't really know how to stay in shape, so I just started running. And I would just run and as far as I could. And then it ended up being like, okay, I'm going to do 12 miles a day. And then for a couple of years, I was running 12 miles a day every day until I never took a break, and then I got hurt. I started getting some sciatic problems, and then I took a month and a half off and eventually found CrossFit, and then way tapered back my running, but still kind of kept it in. But
So when you started to build up your running that way, was it...
I had no idea what I was doing. I just kind of went out and
just went and did it? Yeah. Why? Why did you do that?
Well, I didn't have a sport anymore, and for my whole life I was part of a team, and I was always directed towards, okay, this is what you're going to do for the day, and I didn't have that anymore. So I was like, well, what do you know how to do? I was like, well, I know how to run. I'm just moving one foot in front of the other. And then it turns out I loved it, and I think it's just because of I'd spend that entire time just daydreaming and forgetting where I was, and I come back and I was like, this is awesome. I want to do this every day. How many miles can I do every day?
And so it was a lot for the mental side of things when you got...
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there was never, still then, never speed training. I just kind of went out and jogged.
Huh. Does swimming give you that same type of, daydreamy, weird thought, presence that running gets? Because I think I know what you mean.
Yes.
Do you get that in swimming?
Yeah, you just almost turn everything else off and you start swimming. More though is less daydreaming and more focused thinking for me. So I would start figuring out my homework in my head when I was in the middle of a swim practice, where running is more fantasy daydreaming. I
get that too, and the thoughts I have in running, I push back if ever I talk about mindfulness or something, right? And I'm like, oh, do you have a mindfulness practice, whatever. And people are like, oh, well, I run, and that's kind of my mindfulness. And it's it fits into a mental exercise, but the thoughts that come in and out during running are just so bizarre and so out there. That's not creating space for yourself mentally. It's allowing things to really just dream up in there. I go on for runs and have great ideas, and then completely forget.
If you don't write it down right away, or if I don't stop to because if I don't stop to type it in my phone, if I think of something what I think is brilliant, I'll forget it by the time I'm done with my run. I
was doing that for a while too. If I hadn't happened to have a headphone or something, I'd dictate it into my phone. Do you look back and are they good ideas? Are they actually good ideas when you write them down? I'm not sure.
It's
50-50.
Very rare that I will actually write it down, but I mean, in my personal opinion, they're good ideas. I'm biased though.
all aces. Yeah, that's funny. So when as a competitor then, so you swim at a high level, and I guess that's why you smashed the Spartan games swim, right? Were you oh, sick, this is gonna be great?
I was very excited that they had a swim, but more so after So after school, like one of my first jobs after school was I was an ocean lifeguard. So I had tons and tons of open water background swimming. So when they said there was going to be like a lake swim, I was like, awesome.
Yeah. So that explains that.
I love competing. It's tons of fun. I think part of it is because I go in like having absolutely no idea what I can do, and then often getting pleasantly surprised. And so I love the experience, but I don't think I'm like that true like all-in competitor.
Yeah. Huh. Because like, just to kind of push back, like, do you think that if you were, you'd be happier as an athlete, or do you think
no,
right.
Not at all.
Yeah, because sometimes
I think it would be too stressful. So I don't like. I feel pressure going into things when people expect me to do well, but not so much that I'm not going to go and do it because I still enjoy it. Where I think like people can sometimes let that pressure get so much into them that they're just not even going to try, or they'll back out before it even starts. But like, I want to go there and I want to do it no matter what my results are.
Do you think about the results before an event?
I think of like the possibilities, like, okay, it's possible for me to place here, or it's possible for me to place here. But then I also think like, well, it's also possible for you to place here. So it could be kind of any end of the spectrum.
Like, does it carry weight at all? Do you put expectations on yourself in terms of like outcomes?
I mean, I put expectations on myself in terms of effort.
Mm.
So I've had a couple of these Hyrox races that I struggle really, really hard in the beginning. Every single time of these races, like the sleds are really hard for me. And I've had a couple of them where I've almost given up because I'll get passed by so many people on the sleds, and that's more of a measurement. Like if I'm like that down on myself, I'm like, well, why am I doing this? Like, I hold myself accountable to that, and I've tried to stop feeling that way and be like, okay, so you're not going to do well on the sleds. Keep pushing as hard as you can the rest of the time.
So what's up with the sleds? What's going on? I would think that you would be good at the sleds.
Actually the sled push isn't that bad. It's the sled pull. And I don't know, but I struggle with it so much. And you should practice and put into practice the things that you're going to compete in. And I didn't. Word to the wise, like, if you're going to do the Hyrox events, like, you should probably practice the way they are there. And like I had all the excuses. So my excuse was like, well, we don't have the right sled, like there's not actually a rope, how am I supposed to practice it? And it really doesn't matter. Like, I should have just tried to do what I could with what I had. But I didn't really put a lot of time into figuring out the sled pull. So I think moving forwards, I really need to figure that out, because I've lost like minutes on that station, just one station.
So did it go, and that station could take a long time for people.
Like, and it takes, I think I was the slowest at this most recent Hyrox. I was the slowest person on the sled pull in that invitational wave that finished the race.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Everybody else did it and they're like, I'm done. I'm like, I can't do this. So was it better or worse than the World Championship? Was that in Germany, right? Where was the time?
In Germany, yeah.
I know there were different layouts, right? Because I mean, the shorter rope makes it a little bit easier, but
so it was a shorter rope again in Dallas.
Oh, they both were short?
Yeah, so
okay.
It was short here too.
How'd your time compare?
For the sled pull, I actually don't know exactly, but I think it was pretty similar. And I had a pretty bad sled pull in Dallas, but I think it was my best time for the sled pull yet. So as bad as it was, like, I improved on it.
Getting better.
Yeah.
What so just from like a practical, because like that's real about the sled pull. It's like they have that rope, so there's like a grip strength component to just having your hands out in front of you that way in that position and trying to pull it forward. Like the grip is going to matter for that. And so if you don't have like that specific setup to practice, like you can use like TRX handles maybe or something, but that's still pretty small. But it's hard to find a rope with an attachment on it that's going to attach to a sled
all ropes are different. A lot aren't long enough, and so there's just again, I had all the excuses.
Right, and they're not that cheap. Like if you want to buy one, with
they're not. They're not very cheap.
I've gone down this hole as well. So like, what have you? What are you doing for it? Like what do you think? Excuses aside, there's a lot out there that I think are valid in terms of like availability for these type of things. How can you get better at the pull?
So the gym I'm at right now has a battle rope. So I've decided I'm just gonna put that on the sled, and like it's better than not practicing it.
Are you just gonna tie it on there somehow?
I'm just gonna tie it on there and I'm gonna tie it to another rope. So I'm gonna put a strap on the sled first, and then tie the rope to the strap, and then practice with that. And you're right with the grip. I actually didn't have a problem with the grip, but I've talked with a lot of people, and a lot of people said that what was failing them was their grip on the sled. For me, and it surprised me as well because I do a decent amount of strength work. My legs, like it was so hard to get the sled to move, to walk backwards. So you think for me, the legs was the hardest part.
Do your quads kind of burn up when doing it? Because you would think your pulling, like your horizontal pulling, would be as strong as anybody's, really, right? But you can't necessarily pull it like you would pull like a barbell row or something like that, because it's almost too heavy with that slack, right? So you kind of have to back up. Is that kind of
And you need to kind of figure out what's going to work best for you. So even it's a simple movement, but there's so many different ways you can approach it. Like you can keep your hands closed. You can have one really far out. You can have one foot staggered forwards. You can have both feet in line. You can have like one foot over the rope and one on the other side of the rope. You can have both feet on the same side of the rope. You can try and like twist your body to the side and walk backwards sideways, which if you watch Hunter, that's actually what he does. So with this like one simple little movement, there's so many things that you can practice to figure out what works best for you. And I just kind of went with what I've been doing and still really didn't get that much better. So I think I need to figure out what works for me.
So, sometimes when I'm in something, like facing something like this, I like will abandon whatever strategy I have and then just try a bunch of different things in that moment. It never works out very well.
So I did that.
Yeah, I was going to ask because that's what
you're doing. So in the race, I was like, I can't make this move walking backwards. And it's just because I didn't kick the rope out of the way. Like I should have taken 2 seconds to kick the rope out of the way and then tried to figure it out. So then I just tried to figure out how to like tug it because it was working for Corinna. So I'm like, well, she's able to tug it. Why can't I tug it? But she just was way stronger at not walking backwards and tugging it than I was. So that didn't work either.
Yeah. So like, okay, so now you have it set up. So you're like, because it's going to take time to set up that stupid battle rope on that attachment, right? And that's another thing with it too. It's like, okay, like, yeah, talk about like the 3 hours a day or whatever. And then it's like setting this thing up for 10 minutes.
But if I can make up minutes in one station, it'll be worth it.
Totally. How much will you do that? Will you do that like 2 or 3 times a week?
Probably more like once a week for now, like and just kind of more get comfortable and figure out where I should be standing. So often if I'm walking backwards, I was straddling it. But everybody that I've seen successful with it stands on one. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Stands on one side of the rope and then walks backwards. So that seems to be the best way for people to approach it. So I'm going to keep trying that and see like a couple times over and see if that's what's going to work, because I haven't done that in a race yet. And it looks like the people that can move it fast, that's how they're approaching it.
All right. That was great. I hope you enjoyed that. Lauren is awesome. I'm a huge fan. I'm really looking forward to seeing the progress going forward for what she can do in the sport of OCR. So if you enjoyed this video, hit me with a like, hit a subscribe to get all the newest reinforced running shows and some different content that's going to come to you based around training for obstacle course racing. And if you haven't yet, grab the free Run Faster guide for longer distance in the link in the comments down below. All right, I'll talk to you soon.